Welcome to the Being Curious Show. I'm Brian Mariani, founder of No Shift Own.
And I'm Kelly Wagner, publisher of Edge magazine. Our show is about curiously connecting teachers and seekers on a wide range of topics in a safe space. Few topics will be off limits, and we have some amazing guests to share with you.
Our intention is that our conversations will spark your own curiosity to create a life that lights you up and inspires you to be kind, thoughtful, open-minded to yourself and others.
We are on AM 950, Sundays at 2 p.m., and all podcast platforms. So, Brian, what are you curious about today?
Well, wait a second here. I'm not Brian.
No, you're not Brian. Hi, everybody.
Hi, I'm Steve Wagner, editor for the Edge magazine, jumping in on today's show, taking Brian's chair.
I love it. So, you guys, I've been married to... How long have we been married now?
Oh, boy, on the spot, 22.
22 years. 99 in Hawaii. It was kind of magical.
Aloha.
Aloha to everybody. You guys, this is going to be a fun one. And I think I say that for most of the shows because, I'm really excited about the people that we're bringing in here and sharing space with. Adam. I haven't started anyone with it like that, but you know what, guys? Here we go.
I like it.
The head nod going.
Today, we have Adam Dince in. And I always say everybody's name wrong, like pre-interview, but I pulled it off. I love that he's like, it's Prince with a D. And I'm like, hello, Prince. It's going to be one of those days. Okay, you guys, here we go. Adam is the founder and medicine minister. Like, minister. Holy cow. I can't even talk today. This is where the energy is coming in. Okay. Medicine minister at Eagle Spirit Collective. Eagle Spirit Collective is a 508(c)(a). Did I do that right?
You did.
Nonprofit church that celebrates our connection to the divine creator through sacred medicine ceremonies, self-exploration, and deep shadow healing work. Oh my gosh, like right there. We've already said enough, but there's more. In addition to sacred ceremonies, he and his team and his group and his community help build relationships through monthly integration meetings, group meditations, book clubs, spiritual mentoring, and other fellowship events. In addition to Eagle Spirit, Adam is a hypnotherapist, energy healer, and a new daddy. Let's put a little hello out to your girls.
Yes. We're at the 10-week mark, so in advance, I apologize for baby brain as we talk today. So I ask everyone's forgiveness in advance.
Oh my goodness, we were actually, before we came in today, we were talking about parenting in the first year and the challenges, and we'll do a show on that. It's all good. Adam, welcome.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. Kelly, Steve, thank you so much for having me in. I'm a big fan of the Edge.
Woohoo!
And the community. And, it's great to be here.
Thank you.
Okay, so I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself, but something that because Brian's not here and he's normally the one that asks, is we kick off the show with what are you curious about? And if people know where we're going to kind of head today on our discussion, there's a lot that Adam could be curious about. So the floor is yours.
Yeah,
grab the mic and go.
It's too bad my name isn't George because, it could be Curious George
it could
at
be
that
Curious
point.
George.
And I kind of look like Curious George for those of us who are old enough to remember who Curious George is. But so, I used to be, I think what I'm curious about is it's sort of been evolving over time, but they're all connected. And so I would say for the first 42 years of my life, I was obsessed and curious about what happens to us after we die, right? Where do we go? What happens to us? Do we go anywhere? And that was it's really what kind of led me through my awakening. When you're curious about something and you have an open mind about it, it allows you to explore in a really honest and authentic way. And for many, many years, I explored every avenue known possible to help understand what happens to us when we die. I've sort of satisfied that curiosity.
Okay, so give us some information. Okay, so by the way, guys, he's also an author. I'm going to show the book on our fence on video and Facebook, Back to the Beyond.
Yes, Back to the Beyond,
Where can we get
exploring
it?
near-death experiences through hypnosis. You can go to backtothebeyond.com and
Okay.
check out the book,
Okay.
or you can go to backtothebeyond.com/Amazon, and you'll go right to the Amazon page where you can order. You can order it on Barnes & Noble, too. It's all the book e-tailers you can buy it from. So, highly recommend. It's a great read.
You think so?
Yes,
I'm
I
just
think
kidding.
so.
I'm just kidding. And this wasn't like when we were starting to book the show. I knew he is an author, and I said, bring your book in so we can talk. So, but going off on a little tangent on that, you said, and I love that you said that you've satisfied your quest.
That
the information.
particular quest.
Right, that lane.
That
one.
lane, what happens to us. Now what I'm really curious about is, so when I talk about what happens to us after we die, it's important to connect with that which is what were we before we were born, as Alan Watts. That's a paraphrase of Alan Watts, right? Yeah. Who were we? We often talk about who are we going to be after we die, but no one ever talks about, well, who were we before we were born, right? And so...
Do you have a little insight on that for us?
Well, and that's one of the beautiful things about Bufo alvarius, this medicine, as part of Eagle Spirit Collective. You can experience that. And it's one of those things where it's very difficult to put into words what that is, what it feels like. The only thing I can say about it is we talk about non-duality. We talk about there is no other. There's only I, right? There's only me. But when you say there's an I or a me, that's implying there's another. Just like if you say it's light outside, you're implying that there's also it also gets dark. You wouldn't notice it was light if it was always light, because it would just be normal, right? So oneness implies duality, implies non-duality.
Right.
Right? So there are all these implications, but there is no, when you experience who you are, and I'm not doing it justice in how I'm saying it, or what you are, your essence, you kind of figure out there's not even an I to identify with. There's just isness. I think I've heard Ram Dass refer to it as isness. And I didn't understand that before I sat with the medicine. I understood it intellectually, but when you experience it yourself, and it's like, okay, that's it. So now that I've kind of satisfied the sort of what happens to us after we die, I'm really curious though more about our consciousness, who we are now, who we are underneath this bag of bones, right?
Well, you said in one of your pre-interview statements was you're curious about who we are behind the human costume we all wear.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes.
Tell us more about that.
I think the best way I've seen it, heard it described, it's a phenomenal book called Seth Speaks, and it was one of the first books on spirituality, on consciousness that I read. It's one of the first ever written. So I highly recommend Seth Speaks, and I highly recommend listening to it on Audible because it's a massive book. It's basically War and Peace, but for spirituality. And one of the analogies I heard, or I read in this, or listened to, because I listened to it on Audible, was coming to Earth. And when you try and put things into words, you have to paint pictures, and that's the closest way. But imagine you go to see a play or a show at a theater, right?
Right.
And you're sitting in the audience. And you know you're in the audience, right? You know you're part of the audience. And you see the actors on stage, and you know they're the actors. But eventually, you forget. You forget that people are acting. You forget that they're actors playing roles. And you forget that you're the audience. And it's just like when you go into a movie, right? I'm going to go see, the new Halloween is out, right? Oh, let's go see a scary movie, right? You walk in, let's go see a scary movie, but before you know it, you're in the middle of the movie. You forget you're the participant, and you've basically suspended your belief. So here you are with your nervous system reacting because here comes Michael Myers, right?
Right.
And he's gonna get the kids that are in the house, right? Oh no, and you're in it.
Right.
Well, that's what it means. We all, I think Alan Watts says it best, where if God wanted to hide himself, and he uses masculine verbiage here, but if God wanted to hide himself someplace where he would never be found, if he wanted to play this elaborate game of hide and seek, where would he hide? Well, he'd hide in us, because we don't look inside. We look outside. We're always looking outside to discover who we are. And it's the whole purpose of the universe to experience itself through us. Through us, our pets, the plants, rocks, the creepy crawlers, the furries, the four-leggeds, the two-leggeds, right? So the universe is experiencing itself through all of these different perspectives. But we think we're who we are. You think you're Kelly, co-owner of the Edge magazine, right? Because that's the role you're playing. You've bought into it, but you know that that's not who you are. You know that's a role you're playing. And that's what we do as humans. We dedicate ourselves to playing these roles because we have to. It's what allows us to learn. It's what allows us to experience life. If we knew who we were and we lived in that all the time, what's the point of even coming here?
Right.
You'd be checked out all the time. You'd be floating in the upper chakras all day long. And, you know, I believe it's the Buddhist mantra, which is, or Tibetan, which is you chop wood, carry water, you get enlightened, and then you chop wood and carry water. And so chopping wood and carrying water, in my mind, is being human and embracing humanity and the human experience, while also at the same time having a remembrance of who we are. And so that's kind of who I believe we are. We're not even the actor that plays the role. We're not the script that the actors are reading. It's so much deeper than that. But the best analogy is of the actors on stage or in the movie who are absolutely playing that role, convinced that's who they are. And, you know, you look at method actors, right, where they become the character. Was it Daniel Day-Lewis is notorious for it. When he was playing Lincoln, he was Lincoln outside, everywhere, just so he could become that character. And he said it became very difficult for him to not be that character after filming was over. Well, that's how we are.
Right.
We get so entranced in these roles that we play that we forget. And we forget who we are.
I just watched the Jim Carrey Netflix special about, it's called like Me and Andy. I forget what it's called, when he was Andy Kaufman.
Yes.
And this footage has been in Jim Carrey's personal vault for the last 20 years, and he just came out and was interviewed with it. And he was talking about how he really channeled Andy. I mean, or really got into the acting or the character, or whatever level you want to play with it. But it got to the point where you see some of these behind the scenes, like he brought it, like the way you said, Daniel Day-Lewis with Lincoln. Was interesting is he was asked by REM to film Man on the Moon, the video, and as Andy, and he said, Andy's left, I'm not going to do it, and I can't do it. And he said 20 years later, it's one of the regrets that he had, that he wished he would have just joined in on the video, but he's like, I didn't have it in me. He left. So I get it. Oh my gosh.
Wow. Well, Kelly, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to take it one level deeper.
Go for it.
So we talked about the actor, right? The play,
Right.
Going to a play. One of the other analogy that I love, and I actually have it wrote about it in Back to the Beyond, understanding who we are, is imagine a stream or a river. And in the river, there's a whirlpool. Now, we look at that whirlpool and go, oh, it's a whirlpool. Well, is it? Or is it just the river experiencing two different currents, or currents coming in two different directions, which creates the spinning whirlpool? What happens when those currents stop and the whirlpool goes away? Did the whirlpool die? No. It just went back to being the river or the stream, whatever it was. And that's who we are. So we're just manifesting. We're all whirlpools looking at each other. Oh, look at that whirlpool. Look at that whirlpool. But really, the river manifests as a whirlpool for now. And then when you're not the whirlpool anymore, you go back to being the river.
How did you come up with that? I mean, that's just beautiful. I just saw it and I felt it. And it was just, it's almost like you come to the whirlpool and the energy and you're spinning and then you're like, okay.
Yeah, it's like the wave, right? We're not the ocean. We're not the wave, we're the ocean.
I think I'm sensing a second book. Adam and the River.
Oh my God. You are.
With all the laundry we're doing at home these days, whirlpool.
Whirlpool?
New baby.
That is.
Yes.
So what's it like to be a dad? Like knowing what you know, knowing that you have this beautiful soul that joined you 10 weeks ago and what we were beforehand. How does that bring you into the human experience right now as a dad? And you get to do this in like 3 words because we're going to wrap this up and we're going to jump back into it.
3 words is it grounds you.
So I was telling Adam the first year I thought was just a challenge. So I love that. It grounds you. Okay, guys, we're wrapping up segment 1 with Adam and Steve in studio.
Adam and Steve.
Adam and Steve. And I'm Kelly. I'm just kind of here as the tour guide. Being curious, Kelly and Brian. Brian and Kelly. Hello, Brian in Boston. AM 950, progressive voice of Minnesota. Kelly, publisher, Edge Magazine, edgemagazine.net. We'll talk to you soon. Hello, everybody. We're back. Oh my gosh, I'm missing Brian today. He knows the cues, and my husband, my beautiful, lovely husband's just standing there looking at me like, okay, hi. So glad you're here.
I am too. I'm ready when you're ready. Just
Okay.
point or wink or do what you got to do.
What a good husband. I'm just kidding. Okay, we're in studio today. We've got Adam. Adam, you rock.
Ditto.
Thanks, man. We got Steve. Okay, so segment 2. Guess what we're going to talk about? So there's this curiosity in plant medicine right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Lots of people are talking about it. Okay. And what's your knowledge on plant medicine? When did you start getting curious about it? Because you don't just go from, I think I'm going to play with some toads, to I am an M&M, which is
Medicine minister.
a medicine minister. So it's not just a big jump that you make in one day. So what started you with the curiosity of this? What started your journey?
So a few years ago, Tina, my wife, and I, we were watching.
Hi, Tina.
Hey, Tina. She's probably sleeping right now.
Okay.
But we were watching a show called Kentucky Ayahuasca, which was on Vice Network. And it was, I think, the first time I'd ever heard of ayahuasca. But the shaman would have people who would come to his retreat center and serve them this medicine. People who came in with addictions to everything. People who...
And what's ayahuasca, just for our friends in the audience that have no idea what ayahuasca is?
So ayahuasca is another sacred medicine with a core compound of DMT mixed with an MAOI inhibitor. If you're interested, you can Google those things. But what it does is it, like most plant medicines do, it call it a healing agent, a way to get in touch with your essence. It's just the easiest way to explain it. But
Right.
it's a beautiful, beautiful medicine. And, people come into onto the show with chronic PTSD, people who were in Iraq and had these terrible flashbacks, and he would work and heal them through this medicine, through ayahuasca, and also through other, when people were with the medicine, once they had drank the cup, he would work with them with light healing and sound healing and all of that stuff. So it was really a comprehensive method to healing, and people's lives were changing. And I just remember thinking, man, there's something I've been digging at for years, and I can't seem to get to it no matter what I try. Whether it's Reiki or hypnotherapy or therapy or whatever, nothing seems to be able to crack this. There's a layer that's, and I hear it all the time from clients who come in, I'm stuck. There's something stuck, and I don't know what it is. I don't know how to get out. And that's kind of where I was at the time. And so I said to Tina, I was like, would you be okay if I ever tried this? And she, no, you're not doing it, right?
We're on the couch. You're watching Vice. Let's okay, go to bed.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. So I forgot about it for about a year. I just let it go. Even though we watched the show, I just kind of let it go. And we were visiting Tina's family one weekend, and we're in the car, and I get a call from a friend of mine who's like, hey, I've been following your spiritual journey. Have you ever tried ayahuasca? And I'm like, what? Because this person was the last person in the world that you would ever imagine, doing something like that. And I was like, no, but...
I thought that was the show on Vice that we're just not talking about.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. So I'm like, well, tell me about your experience. And she had a really profound experience with the medicine, as well as her sister. And to me, that was like the medicine saying, you need to, this is for you. It was like the most direct message from Spirit. And so Tina and I had a conversation about it, and she was like, well, I'm not really excited about you doing that, but I don't want you going overseas. I don't want you being out of country in a place where if something happens to you, I can't be there. I can't get to you.
Right.
And I was like, well, what if I can find some place in the U.S. that serves ayahuasca? And she said, well, we can talk about it then.
Okay.
So I ended up finding a medicine church that serves all different kinds of these sacred medicines. And when I talked to the shaman who was serving the medicine, or was kind of runs the whole thing, she said, what are you looking for? What are you hoping to accomplish? So I said, I want to sit with ayahuasca. Here's what I've got going on. And she said, brother, you don't need ayahuasca.
Because just to interject, there's cacao, there is mushrooms, there is all of these different beautiful plant medicines that you can sit with. So by
for
you
sure.
going to an expert or an educated person, and she's telling you, brother, you should not do this.
Well, it wasn't so much that you shouldn't do it, but it was more along the lines of, her words to me were, look, ayahuasca is 8 hours. It's an incredibly difficult medicine to process,
okay.
right? There's lots of purging, and with Bufo alvarius, it's a 10 to 15 minute experience, sometimes a little bit longer, sometimes a little bit shorter, but it's also 5 to 7 times more powerful than ayahuasca. So the core compound in Bufo alvarius is 5-MeO-DMT, where in ayahuasca it's DMT, and so 5-MeO is about 5 to 7 times more powerful. Doesn't mean that it's 5 to 7 times more profound. They're all profound in their own ways. Psilocybin mushrooms are profound in their own ways. Cannabis can be profound if you're sitting with it with the right intentions in incredible ways. Cacao, same thing. The plant that you make chocolate from, cacao, right? So they all have beautiful teacher spirits and whatnot. But she said Bufo is your medicine.
Right.
And I'm like, well, I had never heard of Bufo before. I'm like, what the heck is this? And so
And you're like, Tina says I could do ayahuasca. We're here. And so how do you change the stream?
Well, I ended up having a conversation with Tina afterwards. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to sit with ayahuasca. I want to sit with Bufo. And she hadn't heard of Bufo either. So I kind of shared a little bit of what I was told. And then I found Mike Tyson. If you Google Bufo alvarius and Mike Tyson, you'll find Mike Tyson's testimonial for his experience with it. And essentially what Mike Tyson said is, yeah, it took all the rage away. I was so angry. I was so full of rage. And I did Bufo once, and it took all my rage away. And I was like, oh, my God, I watched Mike Tyson from the time I saw his first boxing match. I watched him. I know Mike Tyson. I don't have to watch the movies or documentaries. I know I love this guy. And I was like, if it's good enough for Mike Tyson, then it's good enough for me. And I want to do it. And so that was sort of the thing. And so Tina and I agreed that I would only sit with one medicine when I went to the church. And I did. And I sat with Bufo, and it changed my life. And
so tell us about Bufo.
Yeah, so Bufo is the name. Bufo alvarius is the name of the Sonoran desert toad. And essentially there are 489 poisonous toad species. Bufo alvarius is the only one that we know of that carries this compound in it, 5-MeO-DMT, as well as a couple of other components that really make this medicine what it is. And so the toad on either side of its head there's a node on each side, and that's where venom, the toad excretes venom. So if it feels threatened, if it's being attacked, it excretes a little bit of venom, and whatever tries to bite it ends up dying, right? And so what happens with Bufo alvarius is the shamans, and we work with a shaman directly in the Sonoran Desert, part of the Siri tribe. We source all of our medicine directly from there, so we get the best possible medicine. And essentially what happens with Bufo is once it's extracted and it dries, it becomes like a really thin, almost looks like caramel, the thinnest layer of caramel. And that's how it's shipped. And when I get it, I crush it down, I break it into like dust particle-sized pieces. And then once it's smoked, and that's how Bufo is traditionally ingested, when you inhale the smoke from the toad, it essentially, that's when the experience begins. And so in 10 seconds, 7 to 10 seconds after inhaling, you begin to feel the effects, and shortly thereafter, that's when the process really begins. And it's a beautiful medicine. It's they call it the God particle, because with one of the characteristics of Bufo is it puts the part of your brain to sleep that's responsible for the ego. So you end up experiencing yourself as I was talking about earlier, where there is no I, there is no me, there is no one, there just is. There's this isness, and many people do experience that. Other people experience incredible healings from trauma, from addiction. My first Bufo experience cured me of my addiction to alcohol. I was an alcoholic. I drank a lot. I didn't know I was an alcoholic, except that I couldn't live without having 8 shots of tequila before bed. You know, it was the only thing that calmed me down, that soothed me.
Right.
And I was a very high-functioning alcoholic, so I thought I was okay. I could drink the night before, and I wouldn't drink all day. I would drink like an hour before bed or 2 hours before bed, and I'd feel good, and I'd go to bed, and I'd wake up the next day, and I felt fine. I'd go to work. I was just me. And I didn't even want to quit. I wasn't even looking. You know, I enjoyed it.
Right.
But when I got back from sitting with this medicine, my wife and I went out to dinner, and I ordered a drink, and shortly after a couple sips, I got sick to my stomach, and I said, I don't understand what's happening. I said, you know, I never got sick from alcohol. And I waited a few days, and we tried it again, and again, I got sick. And eventually got to a place I just couldn't drink anymore, and I got the message. And it's not just me. You know, the shaman who served me for the first time down in Mexico, he was addicted to cocaine. It cured his cocaine addiction. Bufo did in one session. I've seen people addicted to everything under the sun, and this medicine is so powerful, and it's so healing. And so, to me, I wanted to bring that back to Minnesota and Wisconsin. So after a couple years of, you know, working with this medicine and really building a relationship with the shamans, I was invited to come learn how to serve this medicine.
So tell us a little bit about that, because there's ceremony in that. And there, I mean, you just don't go online and register to be a shaman and you get your piece of paper and they send it to you and all is good. Tell us, because I was very impressed when we started to talk about your due diligence and your commitment and the authenticity, and to watch you have ceremony is just amazing, because you really are very heart-centered with it. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, you know, the key thing about learning to serve this medicine...
and not everybody can serve it, can they?
Not everybody should serve it.
Very beautiful.
Yeah, and, you know, and I'm very, very particular. I won't train anybody, and I won't send anybody where I went. I don't... If the stars are meant to align, they'll align for people.
Right.
And so I don't share my contacts. I just won't. And if anyone asks me, I don't tell them, because I don't want to become the person who's like, oh, well, let me say it a different way. This medicine is so special and so powerful, and we were the first ones to bring it here. I think we're the only ones serving it in Minnesota. And there's a very thin line. You know, we're a non-for-profit medicine church, right, and we're protected under the Religious Freedoms Restoration Act. And I am very careful about people who being connected to our church, who go out and, you know, figure out a way to serve the medicine. I do not want to be connected to that, because the only person I can control and how the medicine is served in that way, which you mentioned, is controlling myself.
Right.
So, but I do believe that, you know, hey, listen, if you feel called, you feel called. And if it's meant to be, then the stars will align for you. And that's what happened for me. I had always dreamed of serving it. After the first time I saw myself serving it, but I didn't know how it was going to happen. And as I mentioned, I stayed in contact with the shamans at this church for quite some time. We're all family. And one day I called just randomly, and I was like, hey, listen, I would love to work with people who have sat with the medicine, and I would like to help provide integration service through hypnotherapy. You know, for things that come up during ceremony, I can help people work through those things through hypnosis. And the shaman was like, I don't know. I've tried it like 7 or 8 times, hypnotherapy, and it's never worked for me. And I'm like, well, why don't we try it? And if it works, great. If it doesn't, then no harm, no foul. So we did a session over the phone. I do all my hypno virtually and telehealth. And she went right in and had an incredible experience. And shortly thereafter, she invited me down to learn how to serve the medicine and said, we want you to carry this medicine in Minnesota and Wisconsin in your area. And it was the most challenging experience of my life. You know, when you learn to serve the medicine the right way, right, you learn to serve it by building a relationship with the medicine. So in fact, when I serve the medicine, it is not I that is serving. Adam goes away.
Right.
Adam, the role character, goes away, and the medicine kicks in. And the medicine is the one that drives everything that happens in that ceremony. And it sounds weird to, I'm sure people listening are like, what do you mean the medicine takes over? But all of these plant medicines have spirits. Every plant has a spirit, not even the medicines, your lettuce.
Yeah.
Everything has spirit. Everything is consciousness. All sentient beings are consciousness. We're all atoms. Everything's made out of atoms. We're just somehow organized a little bit differently than the wall over there. So everything is sentient.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness. Although sometimes it's kind of nice.
Kind of a nice little wall, though. Chad's
Chad's
got some goodness and some going on in the studio.
It really is. Just, hey, I'll be the wall. But yeah. So now I lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry.
No.
Touch the wall.
Yeah, it was
Feel the
before
fuzzy wall.
It was before the fuzzy wall part. But
atoms. We're all atoms.
Building a relationship with the medicine. So the spirit of Bufo in particular, but shamans who serve yahe, ayahuasca, or San Pedro, or psilocybin mushrooms, or cannabis ceremonies, or cacao ceremonies. The best practitioners, the best shamans, the best facilitators are the ones that have spent the time building the relationship with the medicine so that they're able to serve it in the most effective and safe way.
Yeah. And you just have the honor. I mean, you take it so heart-centered. And just from your pre-interviews to your website, how you've set up your 5081ca nonprofit church to the letter. I mean, it's authentic. Very trusted. Okay, you guys, we're here being curious with Kelly and Brian. Even Brian's gone. We're here with Steve. We're here with Adam. He is a medicine minister. We're talking about Bufo. Wrapping up the segment. Talk to you soon. Hello, everybody. We're back. Being curious. Kelly and Brian, Brian and Kelly. We've got Adam. We've got Steve. We're on AM 950, Progressive Voice of Minnesota, edgemagazine.net. I mean, so much going on. This is just a great one. So, guys, we're talking about Bufo, sacred plant medicine. We're here with Adam from Eagle Spirit Collective. He is a medicine minister. And I think we've created some curiosity in here. And actually, Steve has a question.
I do.
You have such a radio voice, Mr. Steve.
I'm curious.
I'm sure how the ladies just must go wild over you.
Well, that's for my show.
Okay.
We'll come back for that.
Okay. Okay.
Well, what I thought of during the break is, there's probably a stigmata you encounter. When you say hallucinogens or things, people might think of taking acid at a music festival or a meeting, behind the dorm to smoke a joint, and it's often categorized as illegal or taboo, and also as an escape. But yours is quite the opposite. You're not escaping; you're confronting, and maybe you can expand on that for me.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. If there's one word that triggers me, it's the word trip. I hate that word.
Yeah.
Because to me, that's the most disrespectful word that you can apply to medicine. It's not a stinking trip. It is not. This is the deepest journey inside. And I've, as we've built this church, we've looked for people to help us with integration and other parts of the process. And we will not work with anybody that looks at medicine as a psychedelic or a drug.
Or a Friday night, hey, no, that's not you at all. And I mean, it is a process to work with Eagle Spirit Collective.
Yeah, it's a big process, and safety is key. It's really important, especially when you sit with the super powerful medicines like ayahuasca or DMT or Bufo alvarius, that you're in an environment where you're safe, that people who are serving you know how to keep you safe. And that all starts in the beginning. That all starts before, when you first reach out and say, yeah, I'm interested in sitting in ceremony, we go through a very thorough intake process where we make sure that there are no contraindications between Bufo alvarius, the medicine, and any other medications that you may be taking.
Right.
We make sure that your physical body is healthy enough for the medicine. So if you have heart issues or if there's psychosis in your history, family history, there's so many different things that we look at. It's kind of like when you take your car in for diagnostics and you do the whatever point test just to make sure that the car is in good shape. We do the same thing for Bufo, because our primary responsibility in serving this medicine is to keep you safe. And that's it. You're the healer, just like in Reiki or in other healing modalities. The medicine is the healer. I'm there to serve it and to hold space and keep you safe. And it all starts with the intake process.
So what have you done to honor what Steve asked about that stigmata, that taboo, that that residue or that wet blanket that's still out there in society, where these modalities, these medicines are experienced, and people have no problem going to the doctor and popping a Percocet. Or sorry, I'm starting to see in pictures. What have you done, like personally and professionally, to help? I'm seeing the wax on, wax off from
Karate Kid.
From Karate Kid,
Mr.
like
Miyagi.
Mr. Miyagi, and then what are you doing? Because that's a constant frequency that you're having to deal with.
Yeah,
in this arena.
Well, yes and no. What's really interesting is most of the people who come to us were referred by somebody else, and
Beautiful.
And the people the people who did the referring do a pretty good job of explaining. Like before you sit with something like Bufo or ayahuasca, it's how do I say this the right way? You don't understand what it means to respect it until you experience it, right? So once you experience it, the only thing you have is respect for it.
Right.
So when you talk about it, you don't talk about it like the party drug. You don't talk about it like, oh, I popped a Molly at the club last night and blah, blah, blah. There's no way.
Right.
When you wake up from that medicine, when you wake up from Bufo or frankly ayahuasca or any of, when you are with it, you realize how profound and powerful and sacred these sacraments are. And we see these medicines as sacraments. The earth gives us everything we need
Right.
to heal. People who come to me, who come to Eagle Spirit, we're usually their last option. They've tried therapy. They've tried medications. They've tried everything. And they come and they say, this is all I got left. And at that point, it's the ultimate surrender.
Right.
At that point, it's not about being a drug. At that point, it's not about being, people don't even care about it being taboo. At that point, they're just looking for relief. And so that's what I love, which is, to me, the more respect you have for the medicine, the better the medicine is going to not just engage with you in the process, but after the process is over, when you're going through integration and you're integrating that big experience that you just had.
Tell us about the integration process, because I know that is very, very important to you and your team. And you offer services to help people with their integration. Tell us about it.
Yes, absolutely.
It's not just about the 15 minutes
No.
where you smoke a little this with the toad and go for it. It is truly preparing for it, being in the mindset of it, and then the integration.
Yes. Yeah, the easiest part is actually sitting with the medicine.
Right.
And I always tell people before they agree to sit that once you sit with this medicine, you're committing, whether you like it or not, to whatever the medicine is showing you or whatever work the medicine puts in front of you. That's your responsibility now. Otherwise, it's just a trip, right? Oh, cool. I saw God. I experienced myself. It's like, okay, so now what? What are you going to do with that? How does that make your life better?
Right.
How are you? And so I'll share a really good example that for me personally. So when I was going through training, when I was being initiated into the medicine, there was one ceremony where my screaming and crying, I woke up to myself screaming and crying, because with Bufo, it's basically like you're getting anesthesia, and you don't know sort of what's going on. You're kind of just wherever you go, wherever your spirit goes, you go. And when you wake up, it's like opening your eyes for the very first time. So people describe it as a born-again experience. When I opened my eyes after this particular ceremony, I woke up and found myself screaming and crying at the top of my lungs. And I felt this deep pain from the loss of my dad leave. And it wasn't a painful it was like, it was this, I don't know how to explain it. It was the most cathartic scream cry I'd ever had.
It was a release.
It was a release. And it was also a release of the grudge I held against my mom for so many years.
Yeah.
And we had a difficult relationship. She's much better place now, and we're best friends, but a lot of that's because of the medicine, by the way.
Right.
But as I was feeling all of this catharsis, at the same time, the medicine said, now that you've let go of that, it's time to rebuild your relationship with your wife. It's time to be the husband that you should be. And it wasn't like a switch turned on, and I went home and I was, oh, well, guess what? I sat with Bufo during my initiation.
And here's some flowers.
Yeah, I'm the best husband now. No, it takes work. The medicine does not help you bypass your lessons in life. What the medicine will do is it will help reveal or bring you closer to what the work is, but it's not necessarily going to do the work for you. So yeah, if you're holding on to things that no longer serve you, if there are things that are ready to go, sure, the medicine will clean you out. But if there are karmic things that are going on in this life where you have to own up and show up and heal, there's no skipping that. And so that's where the work comes in. And integration is really important. And what integration means is essentially embodying what you were shown or what you experienced in your ceremony.
And then integrating it into your daily life.
Yeah, that's, yep.
What do you feel after you've heard from the people that have experienced these beautiful gifts? So they've had a ceremony. It's a weekend. It's Monday morning. They're sitting at their computer. And what?
Oh.
What have you heard? Because I know you've told me that people go full spectrum from like, why am I here, to, oh my God. I mean, like this just, oh, sorry, I'm just putting words. Go, but tell us what do you hear?
No, you're right. It's.
Did I just do that for everybody? Exactly
yeah, no,
what
no,
it's like.
it's great. You know, it's true, because what happens is when you meet your essence, it's similar to people who have near-death experiences, right? They're in the hospital, something terrible happened, they got hit by a car, whatever it is that caused their physical bodies to briefly die, and then they leave their bodies and they go to the beyond, hence the name of my book, Back to the Beyond, right? So they go to the beyond, but we call it a near-death experience because they don't really die, they come back. And so they have this experience of going to a place that most of them refer to as home. Some call it heaven, some call it back to whatever people experience. And then they come back into their physical bodies and they've got bills to pay, they've got responsibilities, they've got a job that they maybe don't like. It's called being human, right? Going to human school. And there's sort of this, and the same thing happens with the medicine, because you effectively experience death. And you meet the only essence you can ever meet when you die. It's complete ego dissolution.
Right.
So when you come back and that ego comes back in, because it always does, there's no killing the ego. The ego is our friend. We just have to learn to dance with it.
Yeah.
Or it has to learn to dance with our essence, with our soul, if that's what you want to call it.
Yeah.
But that's the integration work, where it's like, okay, now I'm at work. It's Monday morning. I've got these emails that fire, but none of this is really important, right? So because you've now experienced what it's like to be love and experience this beautiful thing, and you're doing these things that just don't seem important anymore.
Right.
And that can be a real challenge. Same thing in relationships. If you're in a relationship that you're not happy with, but you kind of been lying to yourself about it, or maybe not even lying, you just haven't been honest with yourself, or you're, whatever it is, you're forced to look at it. And it can be very difficult. And a lot of people fear that when they come into the medicine. They say, well, am I going to be somebody so completely different? And my response to them is no. You're going to be more you than you've ever been. And if that means that some things have to leave your life, then so be it. I think my wife, Tina, she was really scared that when I came back from Bufo, that I would be, my first experience, that I would be totally different and maybe not want to be married anymore, or whatever the case was, because that's what happens in a lot of, but I came back and was more in love with my wife than before I left. And it was like, okay, well, so I know, for me, it was like affirmation. Like, yeah, okay, cool. This is supposed to be.
Right.
My job, on the other hand, was a little bit more of a stress. And that's what most people experience. Some people experience it with their kids too, right? Like, oh my God, I had this experience. Now I've got this kid at home that's crying, and it's just, why am I doing this? And so it's really, but what that integration does is it teaches us to embrace, respect, and honor our humanity, our humanness. And it sucks and it's hard, but it's beautiful.
So, go for it.
Well, I think part of going back to the first segment, realizing that you're wearing this body as a loose garment and realizing that some of these restrictions are completely made by yourself, especially in a job or something. Why am I in this career or something? Or why am I in this relationship? You let go of that ego, you let go of that rage, and you realize that, you come back from the integration, and it's not just about me. I am in this community. We are fluid. We all work together. We are all a part of something. And it's not just, why did something happen to me? Because that's the ego. Wait a second. Why is this happening to me? Why did they do this to me? And it's like, no. Especially with conflicts, you're looking at it in a universal way of, okay, why is this happening for me? What can I learn from this? How do I get over this obstacle and not have it run me over? So I think that's really a beautiful thing that people should think about. Is it's so freeing that way. So much of our restrictions are put on us by ourselves or our social norms.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it this way. You have people who develop psychic abilities, right? Intuitive abilities, or they find out that they're a healer, right? And they want to quit everything they're doing in the world and create their own practice, right? Oh, if I'm a healer, I should be a healer full time. And so you start to despise your day job or whatever it is, because like, oh, this thing is holding me back from getting to where I need to be, right? If I could just leave. But if you bring your gifts, if you bring this enlightenment, if you bring this awareness that you have into the world, that's what needs it. So if we go and crawl into our little holes, and it's fine if you do, because some people are called to do that and only that. But others are called to go into the world and bring those things into our workplaces and into our organizations, and to be a light for those who are going through difficult times.
You guys, that was our show. Like, we could go on for hours. Like, I just thank you. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Adam. If you're curious, and I know there's a bunch of you that are curious these days, and after the show, eaglespiritcollective.org. Lots of great information. Adam is a great guide, great team. I can't say enough about him. Thank you. Thank you for being in here tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You guys, being curious, Kelly and Brian, Brian and Kelly, Kelly and Steve and Adam, just a funky bunch. AM 950, Progressive Voice of Minnesota, Kelly with Edge Magazine, edgemagazine.net. You guys, this is an honor, and thank you. Mahalo.
Mahalo.
Aho.